So I forgot to record it first, so I'm going to grab these so I do have them. But for now, I'm just going to throw them. I'm going to make a junk folder, and I'm going to throw them in my junk folder. Okay. There they are. All right. So I'm going to come back in here. I am now taping. Start up IntelliJ. Do a file, close project, so nothing is open. I'm going to come in here and choose new project. Choose Java here, nothing here or here. Next, next. I'm going to come in here and type in Payroll 01. What you want is you want it to be filling this in for you automatically. All right. So mine already is now, so I'm going to click Finish. So now, even though I removed that Payroll 01, it should still be there. There it is. And it should have in there the idea, the source. So all that stuff is in there. All right. So now when I come in here, just similar to what we just did, I'm going to right mouse click on the first folder, and in source, I'm going to right mouse click, do a new package, and I'm going to just call this, like I said, we'll just call this, instead of example.com, com.example. You'll notice that as soon as I hit enter underneath my source folder, it's going to make a com.example folder. I'm going to right mouse click in there and choose new Java class. I'm going to call that Payroll 01. Hit enter. Now I've got all that. All right. Then I'm going to come in, and just like we did before, I'm just going to grab the same stuff. I want a public static void main, and as I mentioned, the shortcut is PS VM, and hit tab, and boom, that's already created. Then string, I'm going to make it even simpler. I'm just going to say here, instead of emp, I'll just say first name. You can say emp, it doesn't matter. Equals Jeff, Jeffrey, that's fine. Of course, I should spell my name right. Char, middle init for middle initial. And that's single quote P, single quote, string last name equals, oops, that's double quote, Scott. Byte age equals 64. Boolean is union equal false. Oh, I had another one that was called employee number. It doesn't matter. Double hours worked equal 40. Double hourly rate equal 10. Double gross, we could call gross pay, it doesn't matter, equals hours worked times hourly rate. And because I am anal about this stuff. And then my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 system.out.printlines. I forgot right before the break, Mr. Corrigan said, I got your machine all set up. Like I said, if I'd have been smart, I'd have taken it home, but I wasn't smart. So the point is, I played around with it a little bit, and he never told me where the, on this one right here, there's a big button in the upper left-hand corner for on-off. Here, it's at the end of the keyboard way on the right. And that's where my end key was on my other one. I keep hitting it. If I press it hard enough, I'm going to reboot during the middle of what I'm doing. It doesn't sound like it's a big thing, but it's just like, oh my gosh. So, all right. So, first name, middle name, that's fine. Last name. It's not middle name, it's middle initial. last name, current age. That looks good. That'll work. Space and a space and a space and a space. Where is it saving?
It's saving it under the OneDrive.
Okay. All right. There must be some setting on IntelliJ which is telling it to default to there. All right. So you might have to go in under settings and take a look.
And changing the fact that it's saving it under user desktop. But my desktop that's displayed is on OneDrive.
Gotcha.
So when you save it on the OneDrive /desktop, then it'll show up on your desktop.
Makes sense.
Mine's not there either.
It's not there? Okay.
I don't know what it was saving it to, because whenever I kept trying to save to the desktop, it kept saying before that path directory didn't even exist.
Okay.
So I have no idea where mine even saved to.
So I went back and I redid the entire program, and I'm going to try to run it now. You click either one of these arrows. I always choose the second one. I don't know why, but I do. And the results should print down here, and you can see them on the screen. And there it is. Except for current age, I printed my middle initial. But other than that, it's fine. Space. What do we got here? Current age, it should have H. There we go. All right. So after the break, because I should have kept, for some reason I didn't turn on the recorder, should be on now. It is. And we're going to go back and we're going to rewrite this a second time. Okay. I am going to continue on. All right. So I'm going to come back into IntelliJ here. I no longer need this first program. So I'm going to do a file, close project. As always, as you guess, if you're asked if you should save, yes. Okay. And I'm going to do a new project. Again, I'm going to do a next and a next. Again, when I start typing in here, it should remember the path from last time. So you could change it if you wanted to. But now I'm going to type in Payroll02. and hit enter. All right. And I'm going to go through the same kind of procedure I did before. In other words, I'm going to click the down arrow on this first folder here. Under source, I'm going to right mouse click, choose new, and choose package. Again, I'll just call it com.example. Hit enter. Under that new folder that gets created, I'm going to make a new Java class and call it Payroll2. Now, I did that fast, but hopefully you're able to keep up with that. Okay.
What did you mean? Okay,
Just, are we good? Okay. And again, do my PS VM, hit tab, and I've got that. Now, for just a second, don't type, okay? Just look up here. Because we're going to add our same variables that we had last time. I could really just copy them over. I probably should have done that first, but that's fine. I'll put them in. So let me just put in one. So I'm going to put in here string, first name, and I'm not going to set it. I'm going to set it equal to the empty string. Okay? Now, that's why I said just for a second, don't type. You'll have time to do this. What we want to do is we want to use what's called the system scanner object. This is kind of like what you'd use if you were just doing a totally DOS program. Kind of like when we did the console read lines and the console write lines. And it's totally fine to do that. The problem is if I try doing this now and I come in and I say system.out.print, kind of like we did a console.write last year before we did the read line, and I come in here and say, what is your first name? Okay, and now I'm going to sit there, and the system's going to sit there, and it's going to wait for that. All right, and what I want to say then is first name equals keyboard dot next line. And that's like a console.read line. The problem is, notice how it's red right now? It doesn't understand what that is. And remember how we used to have to make using statements in C? Here you make what are called import statements. They basically serve the same function. So what we want to do at the top of our program here, always under your package statement, is you want to type in import Java, oops, not import, import, try that again. Import, now watch what happens when I do this. I'm going to put in Java dot, and notice IntelliSense kicks in. And it's under the utilities package, so util dot, and there's a thing underneath there called, oh, it's a big scanner. That's what this is called. Again, I didn't make these rules up, but that's what it's called. All right. Now, I still get an error. Okay, and the reason I'm still getting error is would you agree, looking up on the screen right now, I've never defined keyboard anywhere. Would you agree with that? You didn't have to. You could have called it Keegan, and the program would work with what we're about to do. Keyboard is something most people use when they're using a scanner. You don't have to call it that, though. But what we have to do is when we're creating all of these new items, and I'm going to put the other ones in. It doesn't matter if you put it above or below the other ones, but I'll put it here. I'm going to say scanner keyboard equals new scanner system.in. And what that's doing, notice that the error for keyboard went away. It's saying I'm going to use a scanner object, which I defined up here, and system in is now going to be referred to as keyboard. So what should happen, if you look up on the screen right now, if I save this, of course we're not done, but I'm just going to save it right now. I'm going to do a save all, and I'm going to run this. What is your first name? Sometimes you have to literally take your mouse and click down there. So now when I come in and I put in Jeff, and I hit enter, the program's done because I didn't put any other code in yet. Does that make sense? All right. So let's do this. I'm just going to copy this down. Like I said, I should have really Just copied it over from the last one. You can do that if you want to, but I'm going to say middle initial. Since that's a char, notice I'm getting that error here. See that? And if I put my mouse over this, what does it say? It says required type char. Okay, I gave it a string. But do you notice over on the left, you see the light bulb? You'll see this in the Android Studio too. If I go and click on the light bulb, it'll say, do you want to change its type to string? See this? So now, if I click here, it changed that to string. Well, that's not what I want. I want that to be a char, and I don't know if it gives me that as an option. No, it doesn't. So I got to manually come in then and change that to single quote, single quote. And notice it's still giving me an error. It doesn't believe that there's an empty string with just a character. It has to, so you literally, when you do that, you put in a blank. Kind of some different types of rules, but again, they're not my rules. All right, so first name, last name. Also on this machine, you use the same key for insert and delete. I've not seen that before, but it says insert and then down below it, it says delete. That's going to just drive me nuts. I know it is. All right. Now, as we go through this, see that next line that we put in? That's what you use for strings. All right. There actually is a next byte that you use for bytes, a next Boolean that we'll use for Booleans, a next double that we'll use for doubles. Does that all make sense? All right. So I'm going to grab this and copy it a bunch of times. And I'll come back and fix that later. Do you all have this? Keegan, you got that too? And you got the import statement up above? All right. All right. So last. Oh, I didn't do my middle initial. Okay, we're going to get an error for this one. We'll talk about what the error is in just a minute. I'll let you catch up. The reason that we're getting the error, if you look on the screen here, if I put my mouse over it, it says required type is char, and it's provided a string. Now, when I look here, notice there is no next char. See that? So what do? Well, I cheat, for lack of better words, and I take that and I make that a string. Are there other ways of doing it? Yes, but not with what you've learned so far. So this will have to be double quotes then. And you'll notice that once I've done that, that everything is cool. All right. Now, this is not a big thing, but just to show you this, because this is the kind of thing that you're going to be doing when we start writing, quote, real programs, unquote. Let's, at the bottom here, let's put in this. Let's add a string. We'll just call it str, just short for string. And we'll set it equal to the empty string. With me? Just set that up. You could call it anything. It doesn't matter. All right? But we're not printing anything out right now. We're inputting all of it, but we're not printing it out. We would want to make sure that indeed it worked. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say str, I'm going to hit the space bar twice, equals first name, colon, space, plus first name. Now, you saw this in the C# language. Okay, we're going to say str plus equals. Remember that? All right, so last name plus last name current age. Well, I guess it won't look pretty, but it's fine. Age. What else? Oh, I forgot middle initial. Sorry about that. Okay, where am I? So I'm up to age, union, status, oops. union work. Just leave it like that. Rate. Fine. And gross. And then just have one system.out.println where we print out str. Does that make sense to both of you, what we're doing here? All right, again, we're starting, we're going back again into the kiddie pool, basically, because I just want to make sure. It's been a while. All right. So let's just double check and make sure I didn't make any mistakes. I'll go right back to the program in a second. Let me look. So again, I got to click in here. What is your first name? Jeffrey. What is your middle initial? P. Last name Scott. Age 64. Union status. Let's put true this time. Hours worked. Let's say 50, and I got a raise 20 bucks. Okay. Why did I do that? Because I didn't put any \n's at the end. That was on me. But you get the idea. You can see the stuff is all in there, right? All right. So I would want to go back. And at the end of each one of these, or I can do it at the beginning even, just put a \n at the beginning of each one. There's no BR tag in here like we had in JavaScript at certain times. None of that stuff. Always \n, \t if we wanted to put in a tab. Save it. Let's run it one more time to make sure everything's cool. John R. Smith, 27, false, 35 and 20, and there it is. Anybody have any problem with that one? Does it make sense? Is there anything that's in that program that doesn't make sense to you? Anything? Again, this is very similar in C# when we said something like using system.io. What we're doing, just so you know, this is kind of important, is when we're doing this Java Util scanner. Remember at the beginning of class when we went out, and I don't even know if I still have it up here. Carl, thank you. Get up there to this Java area here. Remember this at the beginning? Well, I'm going to go back again to just where we were at the start, right there. Okay, and I'm going to look because someplace in here, I don't know where, but someplace it's going to say Java API. Java API, see that? All right, so I'm going to click on that, and it doesn't really matter. It'll give me a bunch of them. I don't really care. Java documentation. This is so changed from the way it was. Licensing, technical. I'm not sure which one of these it'll be, but we're trying to find it. Wow, they have totally so redone this site. It's incredible. How about this? Java Util API specification. That's the way it used to look. See that? And you'd come in here and I'd search and I would find in here, I guess, I would go out to java.util, which is down near there you go, just util right there. All right, and I'd bring that up, and there's the interfaces, and someplace in here, I don't know where, but if I searched for it long enough, the classes, is there a scanner class in there? There it is. See that? That's what we're adding. All right, now this will be more germane to you, Keegan, but if you remember, one of the first things we did last year when we got into working with Node was we went and we built that program where we went out to that stock market thing. Well, we were going out to an external API, an external application program interface to get data. Now we're doing it internally. And if we want to bring in stuff that Java makes available to us, we use the import statement. And there's two different ways that you can do this. If you look in here, we just did the java.util, but notice there's a bunch of them that say, when you get down there, JavaX. What happened was when they first created Java, all right, Java had a mantra. This is no joke. I mean, I've heard this from a couple people. I've never read it, but I've heard it. The mantra used to be write once, read everywhere. So the idea was you could make a Java program on a Mac, on a Windows machine, on a Linux box, on a PC. It didn't matter. It would always look the same when it ran. Well, there were two things wrong with that. First of all, and don't ask me why, but somebody with WORE, write once, run everywhere, they changed it to WHORE. And they, which was stupid. It made no sense, but it was supposedly a funny joke. But so then they noticed they weren't looking the same, especially Mac looked a lot different when you ran these things than it did on a Windows machine. I mean, a lot different. The buttons on a Mac were rounded where they weren't rounded on a Windows machine. So what they decided to do was they made this new thing that they called Swing. And with the idea behind Swing was it was supposed to make classes, like a button class was supposed to look the same on anything. And instead of calling them Swing, they called them JavaX. So when you see these JavaX things in here, those are Swing components. So they're newer. So there is a label, and guess what? They call it a J label. There is a button, and there is a J button. But the J button would be part of the Swing component. I'm not saying does that make sense, but that's just the way that they did it. All right. All right. So you said no questions on that one. That's good. I'll tell you what I'm going to do to try to make it a little easier. I am going to grab just this stuff right here, just that. And I'm going to copy that to the clipboard. In fact, I'm just going to throw it. I'll just throw it in here for now. Just so I have it someplace. That's all. All right, so I've got all that stuff now. All right. Then with that done, do one last file, save all. And I'm going to do a file, and I'm going to close this project. Probably guess what's coming next. We're going to make Payroll03. All right. So again, I'm going to go to New Project. Again, make sure Java's chosen, neither one of these. And now in here, instead of Untitled, I'm going to call this Payroll03. I mean, you know it by now. So I'm going to right mouse click on my source folder, and I'm going to choose New, Package, call it com. There's nothing special about com.example. All right, that's just what I'm using. And then I'm going to right mouse click on that new folder, choose New Java Class, and I'm going to call that Payroll3. Now when you look in here, if you look up on the screen here, you'll notice I've never done a lick with annotations, so I'm not going to talk about those. I'm not even sure exactly what those are. But there's also an interface. We'll talk about interfaces, just not right now. All right? And Enums, if you remember, we did look a little bit in the C# class at Enums, which is like enumeration. you can create new data types with a new. Like I could create a data type that was called days in the week, and its members would be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Something like that if I wanted to. Okay? But we want class for everything that we're doing right now. So enter. Got everything in here. All right. I'm going to quickly just do my PSVM and tab. But if you look up on the screen here, I'm going to add a new import statement here. And this is import javax dot swing dot j option pane. All right. The option pane, I told you this before the break, is the kind of thing we're going to be able to create something that looks like an input box. All right. Similar to what we used in JavaScript, and something that looks like a message box that we used in C#. We'll use both of those. Now, don't type this in because I'm going to remove it right away. But notice if I type in J option pane dot, there's a lot of stuff in here. All right, so there's show confirm. Remember those confirm dialog boxes? All right, and we don't care about those. There's an input. You typically want to choose the first one here. Why are there all these? Because they're overloaded. Some of them can take a lot of different, you can pass different arguments into them. All right, typically we don't want to, we just want the normal one, the top one that's there, and that's what we're going to use in a minute, okay? And notice there's also a show message dialog. Message is for output. Show input is for input. I mean, that should make sense, right? Okay. So I've got all these. And whoops, I don't want that now. And I'm going to go back to where I copied that before, all those variables. And I'm going to paste that in here. So I've got my variables. That's the start. So that's just going to save me some time. That's all. All right. And then to show you how to do this, we'll do the first one just so you can see it. All right. And we're going to keep that str variable and everything that's in there. Now, do you remember this? I'm asking you this question. When you worked in JavaScript, okay, and you basically did those input, the prompt statement, okay, everything that you keyed into a prompt statement. I don't care about parse int, I don't care about parse float, but everything you keyed in was what kind of variable? So if it said, what's your name? And I put in 37. Until I do a parse int, it's not an integer. Would you agree with that? What is it before that? That's correct. The reason I'm telling you that is show input expects everything that you put in to be a string. Even your age, which ain't no string. All right. But if I put 64 in there, it's going to expect it's 64. It's not 64. It's got a numeric value of 0. Does that make sense to you? So I'm going to make one more variable in here, and I'm just going to call it string. I'll call it input. There's nothing magical about the word input, and I'm going to set that equal to nothing. And what I'm going to do is, if you look on the screen here, for everything that's here in blue, I'm going to read it into that variable. Then I'm going to convert it into either a byte or a Boolean or a double. Does that make sense to you? And the reason that that's really important, and I'm taking a minute to say that, you got to do it the same way in Android. All right? So you're going to be doing this. It's not going to be exactly the same thing, but the way we're doing it and what the result is basically going to be the same. All right? So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to say first name. Now, I don't have to do it the first name, middle initial, last name. Does that make sense? Because they're already strings. I could, but that would be a waste of time. You know, that's so I'm just going to come in here and say first name equals J option pane dot show input dialog. Oops. And I'm going to say, what is your first name? Question mark, sure. And then when I get done, now we're going to put a bunch of other stuff in here, but just to show you this, I'm going to put in here J option So I'm going to remove this line in just a minute, but just so you see it. J option pane dot show message dialog. All right. And when I put that in, I have to, you can put in where you want it to go on the screen. By default, if you put in the word null, it goes right in the middle, which I kind of like. So I'm going to put in here null, and then I'm going to put in first name. So why did I just waste all that time asking you that? Because I want to show you. Now when I do a file, save all, and I run the program, notice, come on, it's GUI. See that? So I come in here and I type in Jeffrey. It's still GUI. So the first one was the show input dialog. The second one was the show message dialog. You will do similar types of things, not exactly, but with some of the first Android programs that we do. Now, the Android programs aren't going to look like this. I mean, when you think about Android apps, they're much more intuitive than this. You know what I'm saying? Even when we come in and one of the first ones we'll do, like when we do the BMI and like a guessing game or whatever, and we're going to do those together, but we'll still be doing the same kind of ideas, and it's important that you realize what's still happening in here. In fact, when you start working in Android, this stuff is going to be called something.text, all right? And that's what it's going to be. And then you're going to convert it over, all right? Okay, so I'm going to come in here, just kind of the same way we did it before. I'm just going to copy a whole bunch of these. And this will be middle init. Oops. And what is your middle initial? You get the idea here. Now, when I get down to here, now it's not going to work anymore. Why? Because when I get down here, it's age. Do you hear me? It's age. So this is where I'm going to use that input. Now I'm going to say, what is your age? All right. And once I do that, then I have to tell it to do the conversion. And it's not that different from what we did in JavaScript. Remember in JavaScript, we do like a parse int. Now we're going to say this. Age equals integer with a big I dot, notice, hey, whoa, there's a parse int. Oops, not like that. That's what happens when you do the IntelliSense when you shouldn't. Equals integer dot parse int of input. All right, it's not liking something, so let's see. Oh, not integer, sorry, because it's a byte, isn't it? Byte dot, is there a parse byte? I never even checked that before. Yep, there's a parse byte. Okay. You get to a point where I'm showing you all these. I'm probably, after today, we're probably never going to use the byte data type again. People just use ints and they use doubles. All right. Now, you might go to work for a company and they might say, you know, the teacher told you that, he's full of you know what. But that's the way I've always done it. You know, you don't see it. I mean, I was a C programmer and you didn't see people use ints and int32s and int64s. They just used an int. All right. Okay, so we've got that. Then I got to come down here again, use my input. And again, now I'm going to say, what are your hours worked? Oh no, what is your union status? We're going to run this, and I'm going to purposely make the program blow up. Do you hear me? I'm going to do that on purpose. I think it's time. You're both smart enough that we can go there and take a look at that. So that's Boolean dot parse Boolean of is union. like Parse Boolean. Where type string provided Boolean. Input equals Boolean dot. Oh, it's input I put there. I don't know what I'm typing in. Okay, there you go. Like I said, we're doing it slow. Is everything we're doing make sense? So here we got hours work. How about number hours worked? And I don't want that to be hours work. I want that to be input. Now I'll use hours work equal double dot parse double. Why do you do that? Hours work equal double dot parse double of input. Just copy this, make it much easier for me. And is that everything? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, that's everything. Okay, I'll leave that up there for a minute. Now, you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to go back, just so you see this. I'll come right back. But I'm going to go back to the last program we just did, which was Payroll2. And I'm going to go over here. There it is, Payroll2.java. I'm going to open it just with Notepad. You can use anything you want, but the only reason is I want to grab all this stuff I did before, so I don't have to do that again. Now, you can do that. I opened the file up in another program. Don't change it in another program. In other words, oh, gee, I should have put a comment in there. Go back and do that in IntelliJ. It's probably not going to hurt if you do it in Notepad, but there really should be no good reason to do that. Hopefully what I just said made some sense to you. All right, so now I'm just going to paste that in. There it is. So I didn't have to do it again, that's all. Questions? I'll give you a second. And let me just save it and run it, make sure everything looks good, that I didn't miss anything or whatever, and then I'll go right back to the program in a second. Robert W. Granger. He's 44. He is a union guy. He worked 75 hours and he makes 20 bucks an hour. Oh, that's not good. It's asking me for the first name again. Oh, because no. Why is it doing that? Oh, that was interesting. First name, first name. Oh, I've got this. I copied this in here twice. See that? I don't know why I've got that in there, but I did. That's why it was giving me this garbage here. Sorry about that. Save it and run it again and see if I get it to work. Oh, can you watch for a second? I'm going to purposely make a mistake in here. First of all, I want to show you this. Remember how I showed you these? There's also a button up here that you can use to run. See this? It'll run also. So I'll just call that one. Now, this is fine. I'll just put in my information. Whoops. In fact, let's do this. Right now, it asks for my middle initial, but since I made it a string, I can put in my whole middle name. See that? That's fine. That's not going to hurt anything. And I put in this. All right. Now, what do you think is going to happen? It is going to blow up. Watch down here. You get the famous Java exceptions. We're going to get into these probably not till next week, but you can do a try-catch block, and we've done those before. We did those in C#. And what do you check for? A number format exception. So if you put in something that's non-numeric, you can catch it and change it. You can give it a default age or whatever you want to do. Okay? In much the same way, I'm just going to do this just because I'm like I said, I'm trying to be complete here. That's all. So I'm going to run this again. And I'll put in good stuff. Now for the union status, I'm going to put in there true, but I'm going to spell true wrong on purpose. Tour. Notice it took it. All right. How many hours did I work? I'm going to make it blow up right here. I'm just going to leave it blank. Okay. I get empty string. All right. I'm surprised that I didn't get an error, but I think what it does for the Boolean, that might even be a runtime. I don't remember. Let's try it. So Jeff P. Scott 64. I'll put in hello again. All right. 5010. And it just printed out Jeff. That's weird. All right. And it blew up right there. But you can go in when you come in here. To be honest with you, when I did this before, I didn't use the Parse Boolean. I didn't know if it had one or not. That's why I put it in there like this. But it's taking the string and it is converting it, but it's not checking to see if when it converted it, whether it's true or false. So we could come in there with an if statement and say if it's not true and it's not false, we could just set it to something. Does that make sense? All right. Okay. So if everything was cool, all right, and again, you can see what I did here, right? And if all that worked, it should print out on the end, and it should give us all of the same type of information we just had. So I'm going to run this, and I'll come right back to it, so if you want that, you can have it. Jeffrey P. Scott, 64, false, 5020, and it's just printing out Jeffrey now. Now I must have hit something. It's making it blow up. Oh, see what I said? That should be str. All right, and I didn't put that in there. That's on me. Try it one more time. Cannot find symbol strf. Look at that. Because I mistyped. See that? That's a runtime error. It didn't know there was an error until it ran the program. Then it said, okay, it went and looked for a variable called strf. It didn't find one, so the program then blew up. So I'm going to change that to str, save it, and run it again. Now it looks all right. Jeffrey P. Scott. And there it all is. One thing about, just so you know this, it's very hard, unless you do some work yourself, to format a message dialog. Okay, just so you know. I mean, to me, it looks kind of like it's, you can't really hit this space bar, and there's no, that I know of, there's no ampersand, NBSP, like a non-breaking space, and even tabs don't work the way you think they will work in here. So, but I mean, I don't think that's terrible. I don't know if you agree or not, but it could be a heck of a lot worse. How's that? So, that's everything. Now, again, look on the side. I want you to see this. Okay, look up on the screen here. It's telling me, if I put my mouse here, look, I've got 10 warnings. See that? And I can go and check each one out. It says the initializer is redundant. I'm not even sure exactly what they're saying in there. I think what they're saying is, since we're doing it down here, we could have used the word string right there. See what I'm saying? We could have said right there, string first name. We could have done that. So my guess is, if I'd say string right here, hit the space bar and comment this line out, then see how it went down to 9 warnings? All right. And one of the reason I'm telling you that is, it's an optimizing compiler. It's trying to get you to write code into what it considers to be the most optimal way possible. Does that make sense? You may not always agree with it. And I have found I get even more when I write my Android code, because my Android code is going to look a lot like my Java code, because I'm just used to writing it that way. All right. Now, you could go to work for a company and they could say, hey, sorry, Angie, we don't allow, we don't allow there to be any warnings in our code. Then you'd have to go back, and now you'd know how you'd have to change them. All right. Now, these you'd have to still leave in exactly as they are. Does that make sense? And this one would be handling all of those still. All right. But, we can come in here and you can look at all these. It's saying here that the 0 is redundant. Since this is defined inside of main, technically, it is numeric variables are initialized to 0. And Boolean variables are initialized to false. So you didn't have to do that. Guess what? I've been bit enough times in my life professionally as a programmer, I initialize the hell out of everything. I'd rather do that and get a warning like that and say, hey, I'm taking total control. All right. Maybe you agree with that. Maybe you don't. I don't know. Either of you have any problems with this? Any questions? All right. Not a bad time for a second break here. So it's 2:32. I'll start up again at 2:45. The next one we write, we'll see. We'll get this one done, but this is a long program. You've been warned. We're going to write a long program. We're going to write more than one method. Instead of doing everything, we're going to have a method for each thing that we do in here. All right, if we get done with that and there's still time, I've got one more that we can do today, and if otherwise, we'll start with that one tomorrow. And so again, I'm asking, Annie, is this stuff making sense? And as I said to you, you might think, well, yeah, it makes sense. Why are we going so slow? And I'd rather do it like this and have it totally make sense to you. All right. I mean, tomorrow I'm going to write 2 console programs. Basically, the first 2 that we did, Payroll 1 and 2, I'm writing them in C#. Okay. And then we're going to go and take the second one where you ask the person stuff, and we're going to do it as a GUI. But I could tell by the 3 guys over here. The one guy told me that he doesn't look very old. He's kind of hard. He's got one of those faces. It's kind of hard to tell. But he said in high school he learned Python and he learned PyCharm, so which is a way of doing Python. But I don't think he's going to have any problems. one of the other guys was over, was looking like a lot of times just like this, like, I don't have any idea what the hell you're talking about. These guys are probably going to be bored because, I mean, think about it. If you've had 8 or 9 weeks of JavaScript, writing something that's simple in C#, so we'll see how it works. Probably shouldn't have taped that because maybe it sounds like I'm being